Story 1. The recording that shouldn't exist. Daniel worked the night shift at a small security office on the edge of an industrial district, a place where nothing ever really happened, and that was exactly why he liked it. The job was simple. Watch the cameras, log anything unusual, and make sure the building stayed secure until morning. Most nights blurred together into a quiet loop of humming monitors and flickering fluorescent lights. That's why when something finally did happen, it didn't feel real at first. It started at exactly 2:13 a.m. when one of the monitors flickered, just for a second. A sharp burst of static, barely noticeable unless you were staring directly at it. Daniel frowned and leaned forward, replaying the last few seconds of footage from camera 7, the back hallway that never had activity. At first, everything looked normal. Empty corridor, dim lights, nothing out of place. But when he slowed it down, frame by frame, something appeared. For a single frame, there was a figure standing at the far end of the hallway. Tall, unnaturally thin, completely still. Daniel blinked and rewound it again. The figure was gone. Another rewind, and there it was again, existing only in that one frame, like it didn't belong in the footage at all. He felt a cold unease settle in his chest, but brushed it off as a glitch. Still, he saved the clip. Minutes passed, quiet and uneventful, until the same camera flickered again. This time when he replayed it, the figure was closer. Not by much, but enough to make his stomach tighten. There had been no motion alerts, no doors opening, nothing to indicate anyone had entered that hallway, yet the figure had moved. Daniel grabbed his radio and called out, asking if anyone was in the back corridor. Static answered him. No one responded. He turned back to the monitor, his breathing slower now, more careful, as if making too much noise might draw attention to himself. The figure stood there again, slightly distorted, like the camera couldn't fully capture its shape. Another flicker. When the image returned, it was halfway down the hall. Daniel hadn't seen it move. It only changed position when the screen glitched, like it existed in the gaps between frames. His rational mind tried to explain it away, but something deeper, more instinctive told him this wasn't normal. This wasn't a glitch. A faint sound came from somewhere behind him in the office. Daniel froze, then slowly turned his head. Nothing. The room was empty, just the dull hum of electronics. He looked back at the monitor and felt his stomach drop. The hallway was empty now. Completely empty. He immediately rewound the footage, doing frame by frame again, but the figure was gone from every single frame, as if it had never been there. Daniel leaned back, trying to steady his breathing, convincing himself it was over, that whatever he thought he saw was just exhaustion playing tricks on him. Then every monitor in front of him went black at once. The sudden silence pressed in around him, thick and suffocating. For a full second, there was nothing. Then the screens flickered back on. Every camera returned to normal except one. Camera 1, the office itself. Daniel slowly turned toward the screen and felt all the air leave his lungs. The camera showed him sitting exactly where he was, frozen, staring at the monitors. But behind him, something stood. Tall, thin, impossibly still. It was so close that it almost blended into his shadow. Daniel didn't move. He didn't dare. On the screen, the thing slowly leaned forward, its shape distorting slightly, as if reality itself struggled to hold it together. And then, in the reflection of the monitor, he saw its face. There were no features, just darkness, except for a wide, unnatural smile stretching across where its mouth should have been. The footage cut out right after that moment. The next morning, Daniel never showed up for his shift. When his coworkers reviewed the recordings, camera 1 showed nothing unusual, just Daniel sitting alone in the office, completely still. No figure, No movement, nothing behind him at all. But what unsettled them the most wasn't what they saw, it was what they didn't. Because for several minutes before the footage ended, Daniel hadn't moved once, not even to breathe. Story 2. The Voice in the Empty Apartment. Maya had just moved into her new apartment, a small, slightly outdated place that felt like the perfect fresh start after a long stretch of bad luck. It was quiet, affordable, and tucked away in a part of the city where nothing really happened. The first night passed without anything unusual, and she slept better than she had in weeks. But on the second night, she woke up at exactly 3 a.m. with a strange, uneasy feeling in her chest, like something had pulled her out of sleep on purpose. At first, she didn't understand why she was awake, but then she heard it. A voice. Soft, almost blending into the silence, whispering her name, Maya. Her eyes opened instantly, and she lay there frozen, listening. The room was dark, still, empty. She told herself it was just a dream, something her brain created as she woke up too quickly. But the next night, it happened again. Same time, same voice, only this time it sounded closer. She sat up and called out, asking if someone was there, but no one answered. Over the following nights, the voice became more frequent, more defined. It didn't just say her name anymore. It spoke in fragments, quiet but intentional. Don't ignore me. Why won't you listen? Maya began to feel like she wasn't alone in the apartment anymore, even though every time she checked, it was empty. She started leaving lights on, locking the door twice, checking every corner before going to bed, but nothing changed. The voice always came back at 3 a.m. One night, she decided to record it. She placed her phone beside her bed and hit record before falling asleep, her nerves stretched thin from nights of broken rest. When she woke again at exactly 3 a.m., the voice came immediately, louder than before, so close it felt like it was right beside her. Maya, I'm right here. Her hands shook as she grabbed the phone and stopped the recording. Her chest tightened as she stared into the darkness, trying to pinpoint where the voice had come from. "Where are you?" she whispered. The answer came instantly, right next to her ear. "Right here." She screamed and scrambled out of bed, turning on the lights, her heart racing so fast it made her dizzy. The room was empty. Completely empty. The next morning, she listened to the recording, expecting to hear her name repeated over and over. But what she heard made her stomach drop. At exactly 3 a.m., her breathing changed on the audio, followed by a whisper that was clearer than anything she remembered hearing. But it didn't say her name. It said, "You're in my place." She replayed it again and again, hoping she had misheard it, but the words didn't change. It wasn't calling out to her. It wasn't trying to get her attention. It was correcting her, as if she didn't belong there at all. Disturbed, Maya started looking into the apartment's history and discovered that the previous tenant had lived there alone for years. Neighbors had reported hearing voices coming from the apartment late at night, conversations, arguments, as if more than one person was inside. But every time someone checked, the tenant was alone. Maya didn't stay long enough to find out more. She moved out the very next day, leaving most of her belongings behind. She never heard the voice again after leaving. But sometimes, when she wakes up suddenly in the middle of the night, she still feels that same presence, that same quiet awareness, like something is listening. And every once in a while, just as she's about to fall back asleep, she swears she hears it again. Softer now, almost distant, but still there, not calling her name anymore, just whispering, patiently, as if waiting for her to come back. Story 3. The Man Who Wasn't There. Ryan worked late hours, often returning home well past midnight when the streets were quiet and the world felt strangely disconnected. One night, as he pulled into his driveway, something caught his attention. Across the street, standing perfectly still under a dim streetlight, was a man. He wasn't doing anything, just watching Ryan's house. Ryan stayed in his car for a moment, staring, trying to figure out if the man was just a passerby or someone waiting for something. But the longer he looked, the more unsettling it felt. The man didn't move, didn't shift his weight, didn't react at all. Eventually, Ryan stepped out of the car and called out, asking if everything was okay. The man slowly turned his head toward him, paused for a moment, and then walked away without saying a word. Ryan brushed it off as something strange but harmless, but the next night, the man was back in the exact same spot, standing still, watching the house again. This time, Ryan didn't say anything. He just went inside and locked the door, trying to ignore the feeling creeping up his spine. On the third night, the man was closer, standing directly on the sidewalk in front of Ryan's house. That was when Ryan decided to take a picture. As the flash lit up the street, the man looked directly at him for a split second before turning and walking away. When Ryan checked the photo, his stomach dropped. The street was empty. No man, no shadow, nothing at all. He zoomed in, adjusted the brightness, but there was no trace of anyone standing there. That night, Ryan couldn't sleep. Around 2 a.m., he heard something downstairs. A slow, deliberate sound. Footsteps. He sat up, listening carefully as another step echoed through the house. Grabbing a bat, he slowly made his way downstairs, his heart pounding in his chest. The house was dark and silent, but the front door was slightly open. He was sure he had locked it. Carefully, he stepped forward and closed it, hearing the lock click into place. As he turned around, he froze. At the end of the hallway, standing inside his house, was the man, closer than ever before, watching him. Ryan couldn't move, couldn't even breathe as the man tilted his head slightly, as if studying him. Then the man took a step forward. Ryan blinked, and the hallway was empty. Panic surged through him as he ran upstairs and locked himself in his room, staying awake until morning. The next day, he checked the security camera footage, hoping to find some explanation. The footage showed him entering the house, locking the door, and standing still for several seconds before suddenly running upstairs. There was no one else visible, no man, nothing. But just before Ryan turned toward the stairs, something appeared in the frame. A shadow, faint, almost unnoticeable, standing directly behind him. It moved when he moved, stopping exactly where he had seen the man. And when Ryan watched the footage closely, he realized something that made his chest tighten. The shadow wasn't following him, it was matching him. Perfectly, as if it wasn't behind him at all, as if it had always been there. If you liked this video, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment with your own scary story. Maybe your story will be featured in the next video.